Thank you. We're going to call this meeting to order. Before I go ahead and proceed with business, a warm welcome to everybody who's joined us, and I want to let you know that if you didn't notice, as you come into the foyer, there are speaker slips and there should be copies of agendas and backup material.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I want to point out is, although it's very, what's the word? It feels natural to just speak from your seat as the discussion goes on the videotape, well, it's not video, on the digital streaming, you will not be seen or heard very well. So anybody who speaks, you have to be at the podium for it to be heard. And with that, I'm calling to order the meeting for the Midcoast Community Council for October 23rd, 2013. Will the council members introduce themselves?
Bob Klein.
Bill Kehoe. Dan Haggerty.
Laura Stein.
Lisa Ketchum.
And Nicholas Calderon, the legislative aide for the Office of Supervisor Don Horsley, will provide the supervisor's report.
Well, it's good to see everyone. I haven't seen you guys in quite some time, so it's nice to see all of you. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. I know you are all busy, and so we really appreciate you guys attending tonight and participating. Three announcements tonight. For a long time, you guys, the community, and the MCC have been hearing about the congestion management projects which came out of the Highway 1 study, which was done a little bit prior to Supervisor Horsley and then at the beginning of Supervisor Horsley's term here. The county applied for funds through the Transportation Authority, received $1.5 million to conduct congestion management projects, specifically left turn lanes, raised medians, and pedestrian crossings. You've heard for some time that we're going to get the MOU and the scope of work, and I was just told by the TA that this week or next week we should be getting that, which means we'll be able to approve that funding agreement as it's already been approved by the board, so the county manager will just have to sign it, and the scope of work is a technical scope of work, meaning it's all for the engineers. That's been reviewed by our engineers and is good to go. Once all of those are signed off on, a preliminary project study will be conducted, and then once that study is completed, we'll be able to engage the community and bring options and variations to the community. So the community will be able to look at different designs, different features, and see what best fits this community's needs at that specific location. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited about that. We've really been kind of pushing the TA to get us those documents as soon as possible because we really want to get started on this. You can't, improving safety in this community is extremely important to Supervisor Horsley, and Highway 1 is, as many of you know, it has the potential to be very dangerous. Secondly, the Moss Beach Park. Many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with the Moss Beach Park situation. We're making great ground on that. And right now, our timeline tells us that we are on track for the end of the year. More than likely, will be the last board meeting, the last Board of Supervisors meeting of the year in December, which the board will be able to officially accept that land and that park into the county park system, and we're very excited about that. We've been in close communication with the Coastside Preservation and Recreation Board and their members, and so everything's going very well with that. So, we'll keep everyone posted on the dates of the meetings, and anyone who's interested in sending a letter of support for this or attending, please let us know. We can give you the details of the meetings, times, dates, locations, and whatnot. Lastly, there are one of the groups out here, one of the committees out here, the Coastside Design Review Committee, has we have some interviews coming up here that we will be conducting. We had been talking about vacancies on those committees for quite some time, so we have 3 applicants. We'll be conducting those interviews shortly here, and we're excited to get some more bodies, on that board. So that's what we have going on right now.
Bodies with heads.
Yes. Bodies with heads.
It is Halloween, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're very excited about that, but we're excited about everything that's been going on. And actually, a fourth point, on Tuesday, yesterday, the Board of Supervisors approved new district boundaries. So there's been a long-standing battle, I want to say battle, challenge to the way the county Board of Supervisors districts are drawn. And in order to really make sure that the board wanted to make sure they had done everything they can to make sure that these districts were appropriately drawn. And so they approved the forming of a committee that would look at the way districts are currently drawn, look at proposals for new drawings of those districts, and after looking at somewhere around 30 different variations, the board came to an agreement, a unanimous agreement, yesterday, and so District 3, which is Supervisor Horsley's district, remains very similar to what it is now. Out here, as far as the coast is concerned, he keeps it all Pacifica down to the Santa Cruz County, San Mateo County line is all staying with Supervisor Horsley, so he will continue to be the supervisor out here, and he's very excited about that. That was one of his concerns, making sure that he gets to continue to be the supervisor for the coast, and he was able to keep that. So that's my report for tonight.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you.
Laura, can I ask Nicholas a question? Nicholas, did you follow up with Department, DPW about that street overhead light?
I did.
Okay, then I'll take it offline. Unless you want.
I can just give it out.
Go ahead.
It's at the intersection of Sierra and Carlos, is that right?
Correct.
So at the intersection of Sierra and Carlos, there's a community member who's trying to get a street light, not a signal, but a light put in there, light that area, make it safer. There'd been some mistakes made on the original paperwork. I spoke with Diana Shu at DPW, and they will be, they actually were printing out the right papers this week, and they'll be sending those to her, to the community member, either late this week or early next week. So they're on top of that, and we'll be getting ready to go with that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Question? Go ahead.
I called you, asked about calls into the sheriff's substation where there was no one there for most of the morning last week.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to know if you found
Well,
anything.
yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you, I think that's a question that would be more appropriate towards the sheriff's office. I don't have the schedule as to how people are there. What I was told is that the way it usually works is, that, so there is an individual who is usually at the front desk, depending on the hours and what day it is. She will be there, she won't be there. As far as officers present, that depends on the volume of calls. If there are a lot of calls from the community and high needs for assistance from the sheriff's office, then more than likely there will not be any deputies or sergeants or the lieutenant at the substation in Moss Beach. If there is a lower volume of calls, then you may get one or two people there. But it all depends on the volume of calls. And it's my understanding that it's always been that way. So that with Half Moon Bay, I think one of the concerns may have been, correct me if I'm wrong, that with Half Moon Bay opening up, that maybe the sheriff's office was reducing its staffing level on the Midcoast. That is in fact not the case.
I meant the desk staff there, the person.
Right, that's not the case.
I have some information, if it's appropriate.
Go ahead, on
Yeah.
the connected.
I was told that if they don't answer and you go to the door and they don't answer, it's okay to call 363-4911, even though it's not an emergency, and just tell them you'd like to speak to the duty sergeant there. Because I had the same problem. I called and it said, oh, we're on the phone, and I went and the door's locked. And finally somebody came out and they said, don't worry, it's okay to call the dispatch number.
Right, but I called
They were
that.
in there.
I called that, and then an automated message just forwarded me to 911.
Laura? I wanted a follow-up question that Bill had for Nicholas on the lighting. Seems like the standard in our community is the lower somewhat lower mounted, I think it's a low-pressure sodium, which puts off a soft yellow light that, allows us to still see the stars at night in most of these, as long as there's no fog, right? So my question is that standard going to stay moving forward with any new lights installed?
So,
Hold on a second. We're getting into too much detail for what we have to cover tonight, so I think that's something maybe you two could talk about.
Oh, okay, offline?
I can do this 10 seconds. Shooting from the
Okay.
hip, my guess would be that there's some type of general plan or policy out here that makes that the case, very similar to sidewalks and whatnot in Montero. So if that is a policy, it would stay that way. We're not going to start changing things just because the county also doesn't like to put in brighter lights randomly, because people who live nearby tend to complain about it and not be happy, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Captain Mike Mazurich? He's the area commander for the Redwood City Area California Highway Patrol, and he'll be giving a report.
Good evening, members of the council, Ms. Stein, members of the Midcoast community. I wanted to provide an update on two items. One was from some time ago. A citizen had brought up a concern. There's a stainless steel box that's on the center median on Highway 92 in the vicinity of Main Street. And there was some concern that that particular box, at a time of day, the sun would shine off it and put glare into the eyes of those traveling on Highway 92. I have met with the Director of Public Works for the city of Half Moon Bay. I expressed the concerns. That box actually belongs to the city of Half Moon Bay. It controls the sprinkler systems in that area, so it's not a Caltrans piece of equipment. They are aware of it. Unfortunately, it's been several months, and they have not made any outward attempt to rectify it, to try to put a coating or covering on it. So one of the things I wanted to find out, is that still a problem? I imagine if it was, the sun hasn't gone away, and granted we have some fog and winter's coming on, but if that's still a problem, if anybody can get a hold of me, just send me an email so I can revisit that with the city of Half Moon Bay. Again, I can't force them to make the changes on that. I can only bring the concerns forward and try to get some resolution. The second concern is more contemporary, and it has to do with speeding vehicles on Sunshine Valley Road and the ongoing concerns that the residents have, which we're very aware. We looked at the speed limit in that area. We've reached out to San Mateo County Public Works and Jim Porter and his team. And what we found is that the survey that's presently in place for the speed on that road, it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. The survey that's in place does not justify, believe it or not, that 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. That if we were to take the recommendations on the survey or even conduct a new survey and the numbers were the same, it would have to actually raise that speed limit on that road. And that's certainly not what people want to see. But because of the way the roadway is configured and because of the density issues, it does not qualify as a residential road. So the ability of Public Works at this point to begin to put speed bumps or those traffic calming circles, all those things would be a problem, and they would be precluded from putting that into the roadway at this time. Diana Shue has been very responsive. She's a staff member at Jim Porter's, and she has ordered a number of electronic speed warning signs. They're not radar, so they're not going to send a photo and you're not going to get a ticket. But we really want to move forward with the education aspect and use that in line with the enforcement that my folks are doing out there. The problem is, if they were to just try to shoot radar on that road, and particularly at 25 miles an hour, those tickets would not be reasonable or not be proper in the eyes of the court and would just get tossed out. So if we have an egregious speed, certainly we're going to take the requisite enforcement action. If we see other things that we can take enforcement on, whether it be for mechanical violations, cell phone use, lack of a safety restraint, in addition to speed, we are going to ensure that we do make the requisite enforcement contacts. In the interim, what we've done is we've taken a radar trailer that we have in the Highway Patrol, we've moved it out onto that area. So we try to move it up or change it up so it's not in the same spot all the time. But again, we are trying to work through this as quickly as we can, and we do recognize the concerns of the people that are out there. I was driving out there myself here about 2 weeks ago, and I absolutely get the concerns and the number of driveways and the number of homes that are out in that area. Even though it's not as dense as, say, the center part of Half Moon Bay, if you're living on that road, if you're traveling on there in the course of doing work, it's a concern, and it's something that we want to try to address before we end up with a traffic collision or some very, very serious event out there. So please continue to direct those concerns to me. I pass those along to County Public Works. I will say that they're very responsive, but again, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the more information that comes out there that we can pass forward, oftentimes we get a little more a prompt response, so to speak, in how we address that, or how they respond to it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because Captain Mike here, I think he responded to me in about 30 minutes from the time that I had emailed him, and it was just 900 miles an hour since then, and we've come, you've really had so many things happen here, so thank you so much.
So if you want my card, I'll be more than happy to, pass it out. My jurisdiction, just so people understand, I cover up the peninsula from Sunnyvale all the way to San Bruno, east to Hayward. We cover from Devil's Slide down to Santa Cruz County and all the unincorporated areas in between. So it's about 550 square miles. And there's not any one community, in my opinion, that doesn't warrant or shouldn't get the service. When we find out there's a problem, we want to be responsive regardless of what the issue is. We're going to try to get that turned around as quickly as we can. We can't always control what the other entities are doing, but we can certainly help facilitate and pass along that information. And if it's something that we can, or I can immediately put in place in the way of enforcement or education, you can be assured that we're going to get on top of that. All right.
Thank you so much.
Leonard.
I have a suggestion for that road. This is really cheap, really easy, reasonably fast, and perfectly legal. Paint a dashed line down the center of it, and I guarantee you that'll cut the speed.
Thank you, Leonard. I'm now going to open public comment. The council may not discuss or take action on any of the items that aren't on the agenda. Anyone may speak up to 3 minutes. We have sort of a full house, so I'm going to ask everyone to please respect that time limit. And they can talk on any topic that's not on the agenda. And I will go first. I just wanted to let you know and expound upon Nicholas's issue of coast-side design review. We do have an opening for an architect that's a licensed architect, and they can come from anywhere in San Mateo County. And then we have 2 openings, an alternate from Montara and an alternate from Lost Beach. And now I'll open it to the public. Karen.
Brain fart. We had a incident between 10th and 11th and 12th Street on Highway 1 in Montara where the trees and the road was starting to erode and part of the highway was falling in. And I really want to thank Supervisor Horsley for helping me help all of the residents over there. It happened so quickly and so efficiently. Caltrans came out, closed part of the highway for 2 days and did some incredible tree removal. And we're looking forward to hopefully getting that area reseeded in the fall, as far as I know. And if in the future or at some other point, I know there's still 2 slabs of the old highway that are hanging over that area that do have safety barriers up now. So I just want to say thank you. It was great that we got that done so quickly.
Absolutely, I'll pass it on, thank you.
Connie?
Hi, I'm Connie, and I guess you're looking at me thinking, are those real pearls? No. Listen, now that we got over that, last year, we had our I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Last year, we had our first Pride celebration down here at Half Moon Bay Brewing Company. Today I talked to them again, and they're on board for next year for July 12th. And what we're hoping is that, the board can kind of pass some sort of resolution that says July 12th, 13th, somewhere in there, the second weekend of July is our Pride. And that Pride can extend to anybody. In this area we have a really rich community of Rainbow Coalition women. Which brings me to my real point here tonight, and that's March 8th of next year. We've had a lot of events in this area, and frankly, I know from both sides that they're really geared towards men. March 8th gives a real example of a time when that can shift. It's International Women's Day, and it's a Saturday. And it would be such a really great thing to have events around the city. Half Moon Bay Brewing Company will have a lunch for women. We can have art events. We can have music events. but it can be a celebration of women in our ever-changing role, in the roles that other women have made. So if you look around this room, you'll see that you guys rule. And you know, and there has to be some concessions. And maybe March 8th can be one. So I guess that's my 3 minutes. You know, I had my 15 minutes, they're already up. So, you know, I don't know. You know, like young people call them stalkers, I call them private admirers. So thank you so much. I hope you'll come to Pride next year. It's really funny. We try to be, so thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Leonard?
Leonard Warnell, Granada. By the way, this is the first time in quite a while that there have been fewer than 3 women on the council. This coming Saturday, whatever that date is the GSD quarterly recycle event for items that you can't dispose of curbside and you'd otherwise have to drive up to the Recology Recycle Yard in Pacifica. You can drop them off between 9 and 1 in the Barnum Store property at the end of Avenue Portola. The other thing that I want to mention, and this is a bit tricky because of the campaigns going on, but you know, we see this basically every October of odd number years where people start pointing to the beach pollution signs that are permanent. They're county signs. One of them is next to Barbara's Fish Trap, leading down to the beach there. It's a blue sign. It's featured in a video for certain GSD candidates. The thing that's critical to know, and Sabrina has a PDF of the report on her website, which is sabrinabrennan.com. Is that right? SabrinaBrennan.com. Yeah, SabrinaBrennan.com. The report that was presented to the community a couple months ago is up there. People should read it. There is no human component to the pollution. It's from various sources, primarily bovine, which includes deer. And it's really annoying that these people are so desperate that they're willing to scare the community at large just to try and get elected under false pretenses. There is nothing that anybody at GSD can do to solve the problem. And in fact, it's taken since 1989 to get to the point of even understanding what the problem is. So now that it's been reported, I believe there are other entities that are working on trying to come up with some way to address it, but it has nothing to do with GSD's system, and people need to take that into account. You know, I'll probably take heat for this, but it's just a lie on the part of certain people that have no basis whatsoever for trying to get on the GSD board. They'll say anything. And talk to me privately if you want to know what their real motives are. That I'm not willing to stand up here and say, but I'll tell anybody privately what their actual motives are. Read the review's endorsement for a serious hint. The review figured it out.
Thank you, Leonard. Is there any other, anyone else that would like to speak? Sabrina.
Hi, Sabrina Brennan. I wasn't planning on speaking right now, but since Leonard mentioned that report, it was produced by the Resource Conservation District, so I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm sure that it's also on their website if anybody wants to look at it, as well as my website. It might be easier to find on the Resource Conservation District's website. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak? With that, I'll close public comment, and we're going to consent agenda. One note, since there is no written treasurer's report, I'm going to remove item 3B for treasurer's report for October 23rd. We'll remove that from the consent agenda. May I have a motion to...
Before you do that,
Yeah.
I'd actually like to pull off the appointment letter. I want to make a comment about that and a suggestion.
At C?
You see, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, sure, we'll put that for after coastal access is used.
Okay, at the end, okay.
Oh, it's not yet.
Okay, so may I have a motion?
Oh, I move we approve the consent agenda, which is basically just now 3A, minutes for September 10th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're now going to move on to the regular agenda. The MCC uses a simplified version of parliamentary procedure.
He's head faking. Do you want to stand up?
Called Rosenberg's Rules of Order.
This isn't me.
I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulties, and Len was kind enough to go all the way home and come back with a different projector. So, but we don't have to worry about it for this agenda item. Okay, great. Once again, we use a procedure called Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Individuals will be asked to make their presentation. Council members will then ask their questions of the presenter. Public comment will be opened. Public comment closes, and the council discusses and takes a vote. The first agenda item is Surfers Beach Highway 1 Emergency Erosion Protection. Nicholas Calderon will report and answer questions on the current Costco-Busan grant-funded planning permitting project for erosion protection, coastal trail, and beach access. Included will be Supervisor Horsley's recent letter to Caltrans requesting a separate emergency highway protection project for the winter. I believe also Caltrans' response. And what our desired outcome is here this evening is the council will decide if this updated project information will merit further action this evening. So, take it away, Nicholas.
Thank you. So, as many people from the community are aware of, there's an issue facing Surfers Beach, largely caused by the jetty that was built by the Army Corps. I think it's like 60 years ago. But we're not here to kind of focus on that because there's nothing that we, the county, can do to address that. What we, the county, can do is address protection of Highway 1, the repair of the coastal trail in that area, and provide safe recreational opportunities and safe access to Surfers Beach from the trail. Over almost a year ago, the county was successful in receiving $180,000 in grant funding from the Costco-Busan grant program, which also came with a $20,000 local match. So $200,000 is available for planning and permitting for a project that consists of the elements I just listed, which is protection of the highway, the coastal trail, and vertical access stairs. The county had received that funding. However, since the beach is owned by Half Moon Bay, the roadway that we're trying to protect and the right-of-way belongs to the state, Caltrans, and the county really doesn't own any land there. We had the money and we were ready to move forward. However, we had to make sure that the other agencies were on board. The other agencies wanted this to happen. Half Moon Bay has been extremely supportive. They're on board. They don't just want to support, but they also want to participate. And so I do want to thank Mayor Rick Kowalczyk for his support and really helping with this. So the county had convened a meeting that consisted of the Coastal Commission, as they're going to be a permitting agency, Caltrans, and county parks. At the end of that meeting, it was determined that a small working group consisting of 2 people from the county and 2 people from Caltrans needed to talk to determine what type of project the county would be willing to put our money into and what type of projects Caltrans was actually willing to participate on. Well, the meeting that had happened, there was a meeting that determined that. At that meeting, afterwards, it was really determined that, by Supervisor Horsley, that some of the participants did not fully, were not engaged in this project at a speed that was appropriate and that was called for. Surfers Beach is really an imminent threat, and that's what Supervisor Horsley called it in his letter. That's what we continue to call it, and that's what we're pushing for a resolution for, is an imminent threat. If we get a very big winter, big waves, the future of the highway in that area is unknown. Now, if you force Highway 1 to go to one-lane traffic controls, or that highway is shut down, then you create problems for everyone. You create problems for people trying to commute to and from work. You create problems for people who are trying to come out to the coastside on a weekend and enjoy the recreational opportunities out here. You create problems for people whose jobs are out here, people who depend on those jobs for their livelihood. So Supervisor Horsley felt that it was important that he made this known. So he sent a letter to Caltrans. He had copied the state representatives and the Congresswoman on it, as well as the city of Half Moon Bay. This letter was sent out to Bijan at Caltrans, and it essentially said, we would like Caltrans to apply for an emergency permit to protect the highway for this winter. Because although there is no data that says 100% that this highway, something will happen to this highway this winter, there's no data that says nothing won't happen to this highway this winter, and that was the concern. So Supervisor Horsley had sent this letter, and there were a lot of concerns that came out of it, I think, from people out here in the community. And I think what happened was there were certain gaps that were left when people read this letter, and depending on the perspective of the person reading it, they had put what they believe, that interpreted it in a specific way. So I wanted to come out here and let everyone know specifically what Supervisor Horsley was requesting. What he was requesting was, like I said, an emergency CDP to protect Highway 1, because this winter something needs to be done. And so in the letter, he doesn't call for riprap. In the letter, he calls for an emergency project. Now, what that meant was if Caltrans was going to propose riprap, then that's what Caltrans was going to propose, and they were going to need to get that approved by the Coastal Commission. If they were proposing a retaining wall, then that's what they were going to propose, and it also needs to be approved by the Coastal Commission. So we had sent that letter, and Caltrans had responded and said, we appreciate your concern, we appreciate the letter, however, we ourselves do not deem this an imminent threat, as well as the Coastal Commission has stated that they will not permit an emergency project at this location. What Caltrans did commit to is to continue to look at their own funding sources for money to participate in this project when necessary, and they've also committed to working with the county for whatever necessary permits are required for this project. So where we're at right now is we're going to have a conversation with Caltrans once again to determine what type of project they are willing to fund. Because although they say they're willing to fund, work with us to provide the permits, they still have a big stake in this. So if the county's going to propose a project that's going to protect the highway for 2 years, say, and Caltrans says that's not good enough, we want a project that's going to protect the highway for 5 years, then they're not going to permit us to move forward with a smaller project. So we need to work with them to come to terms on what type of project is allowed, and at that point we will be able to continue the conversation on funding, and we will be able to take the $200,000 that the county received and put out a scope of work for a consultant to do plans and permits, and inside that element of the project there will be public engagement at that point. So right now where we're at is we need to work with Caltrans to see what they are willing to permit and what they're willing to fund. This has been a long-standing issue, and for the county to just kind of move forward and not work with Caltrans and not take these steps would be a poor use of time and a poor use of funds. So that's why it is very important for us to take these steps. So that's where we're at right now. There's nothing really set in stone. And no, we've been kind of in the starting blocks for a while, and we're still there. But we are optimistic that here in the near future we'll be able to kind of get out of those blocks and get things going. So, that's where we are. The points that I do want to emphasize, just go back and emphasize though, is that the county received this money almost a year ago. January of 2013 is when the county had received this money. Therefore, we had applied in 2012. So I know there were concerns that this had come from a conversation with a party out here or whatnot. This had come because for several years we had been told that this is an issue. We had seen that this was an issue. Supervisor Horsley took it upon himself to try to resolve this matter, even though it is not in his jurisdiction. Technically, as a supervisor, it's in the city of Half Moon Bay. He felt it was important that this issue is addressed because whether it's an unincorporated or the city of Half Moon Bay, he has been selected to represent all of you. And he felt that this was important because he had been told it was important. He heard it, and that's why we are where we are today. So there was kind of a lot of information there. I hope it was easy to follow. I hope I didn't ramble. If anyone has questions, I'm obviously happy to field those and clarify anything that people may have.
Okay, first I'm going to bring it back to the council. Does anybody on the council have any questions?
I have a hopefully quick question. So in the September 8th interagency meeting, we were told that they had identified the three priorities: the coastal trail, the protection of the highway, and the beach access. And I think in July, we were told that there would be a consultant, somebody was going to, I got the impression that this designing was starting with the Costco percent money, that things were happening. And then from the September meeting report that we heard, also it seemed as though things were happening. And so if you could tell us more, so it seemed there was more to come out of the September meeting, and maybe it wasn't so cheery as I assumed. And so if you could tell us more about the work group that was set up that time, and who's on that, and how often they'll meet, and like, so we can get a sense of the rate, the progress, what they're, I mean, it just feels like, I don't know if others share this, so I feel anxious with the lack of information, and this has been ongoing, so it's almost as though, well, it is actually, it would seem useful if we had a rep meeting with it. You get a better sense of it if you're there at the meeting of the real picture. But
So-
anyway.
The what you titled the priorities, the three elements,
Yeah,
that was determined in the grant application that was submitted in 2012. So that was that had come out of what I believe was a study, an on-site visit between Coastal Commission, I think it was Coastal Commission, Caltrans, County Parks, and a few community members, and that happened 2012, maybe 2011. So that's when those priorities were set. And then they had applied for the funding, then received the funding. As far as a timeline, I know Supervisor Horsley's come out here and said it before, and so I'll echo that, is unfortunately, government moves very slow. I unfortunately wait weeks sometimes for a return phone call or a return email. So, it's difficult to say what the timeline is. It took us one time 4 weeks to schedule a meeting for 6 weeks out, just for everyone to get around the same table to say, well, we'll have to take it back to our people and see. And so now you have two state agencies saying, we'll have to take it back to our supervisors to see what they say. Well, that then just pushes everything down. So where you think you're gonna get maybe a resolution or a couple steps in the process, you don't get anything. And so a timeline is not, I couldn't give you one. And I understand that's frustrating, and I wish I could express to all of you how frustrating it is to me. It drives me crazy. And I work on this stuff. I come out here every other week and tell you guys about it, and everyone out here gets frustrated. But between every other week when I come out here and tell you guys about it, I'm working on it every day. I'm not getting phone calls back, even though I'm leaving a voice message 3-4 times a week. I'm not getting emails back. So trust me, I understand the frustration you feel. Believe you me. It's frustrating. The working group that was established was, his name's Ron from Caltrans, who is, I believe he's a form of a district supervisor. It is a gentleman named Tom, who's a geologist for this region, and then Dave Holland, assistant county manager, who has extensive knowledge on this project in this area, as well as Steve Monowitz, who is our deputy director of planning. Prior to coming to the county, he worked for the Coastal Commission. So this working group, and then I also sit in these meetings and try to find clarifying questions. So when I come out here every 2 weeks, I can attempt to give you guys some type of update, even though sometimes we have these conversations and there are no updates. But these 4 individuals were selected because these 4 individuals are able to have honest, open conversations with each other, push aggressive ideas, and they understand all the permitting that is going to have to go in place. As far as conversations, we had the September conversation, and then we had a conversation on September 27th, so the day after Supervisor Horsley had sent his letter. We had a conversation with them, and at that point, what had changed was Caltrans' tone of voice, not tone of voice, their willingness to work. We had really, one of the intentions of this letter was not just to protect the highway, but was to apply pressure, to say, look, Caltrans, we're tired of this not moving, as well as to the Coastal Commission. We're tired of this not moving. This is important to us, and therefore, we want it to be important to you. And so that had worked. That worked. Caltrans was looking at it a little bit differently, and we're very happy with their response. The next conversation, we would like to be in the next week or so we can get a project scope of work out. And but once again, I need to get a confirmation from Caltrans, and so it can be anywhere from 4 hours between responses of emails to a couple days to a couple weeks. So I know it sounds like I'm being very negative about Caltrans. They work hard. They have a very difficult job, and we're very appreciative of their willingness to work with us, and their commitment to working with us on the permitting process as well as the funding. So we are very appreciative to that, and they are very busy. It's just, government moves at a different pace than the rest, reality sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but that's kind of one of the things we have to live with. So that's where we are with that.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Is there a time limit on how long the county can hang on to that 200,000?
We have put in for an extension, and provided that we continue to show them progress, we will have some wiggle room with that. However, we've had it for quite some time and not much has happened, and so we are we have someone at the county who's working with the grant funders to explain to them the complexity of this issue, and hoping that they see that and understand that although we haven't spent any of the money, that doesn't mean we haven't been working on this. We've held the meetings, we've had the conversations, and if it was up to the county, we'd be a lot further along than we are. But it's it's a very difficult issue.
And the reason I ask is because I know the higher up you go in government, the longer the lead time needed to get anything done. So do you have contingency plans as the clock starts running out to put that money to good use? Because I have a sneaking suspicion that for even Caltrans to move the yellow line over 10 feet, it would cost them more than $200,000. So the money that the county can use to move it along in Caltrans dollars is minuscule. And so there's very little leverage there. So rather than let that money just kind of evaporate on us, I would strongly suggest that you look at a contingency plan of other things you could do that are outside that scope, just in case Caltrans drags their feet for another 1, 2, or 3 years.
So as it's been explained to me by our grant writer, this money was allocated to the county specifically for the 3 elements explained prior, and specifically for planning and permitting. I mean, even to use some of that money for construction, we would have to go back to the grant funder and get their okay for that.
Okay.
So it's kind of not like they say, hey, here's $200,000 or $180,000 for a recreational opportunity. It's, you know, you have to stay within a very strict guideline.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So just to understand, when you had the concern expressed in Supervisor Horsley's letter, you and Caltrans were in agreement to go to the Coastal Commission and say that you believe that there was danger of the highway being interrupted this winter, and so we requested an emergency permit that would let you take action. How is that?
No, Supervisor Horsley, as well as others at the county, made the determination that this truly is an imminent threat. And the letter was sent to Caltrans because we wanted Caltrans to first view this also as an imminent threat and then take appropriate action afterwards, meaning Caltrans would go to the Coastal Commission and apply for an emergency CDP to do an emergency project for this winter only to protect the highway.
Okay, so have you contacted the Coastal Commission at all?
We have been in communication with the Coastal Commission.
And what feedback did they give you?
They said that they, based on the information they have, that they did not determine this to be an emergency that would warrant an emergency CDP. However, they want to continue to work with us to, they want to continue to work with us in Caltrans to provide necessary permits to conduct this project.
So to conduct the project, the basic Costco Busan project, not.
Correct.
And that's the one where Caltrans said that their criteria is it has to have at least 5 years of.
That was an example. That was an example. Caltrans hasn't laid out their specific criteria, and that's what we're hoping the next conversation will resolve.
So given that Caltrans feels that this danger exists, do we know what their contingency plan would be if the road were interrupted?
That was asked for in Supervisor Horsley's letter, and it was not, actually specifically asked for a plan as to how Caltrans will react, essentially a reaction plan for if something is to happen to the highway. There's no mention of that in their response, and so we will be asking about that next time we have a conversation with them, because we do want to know what will you do, because just kind of, going out there and shutting down the highway because something happened is not a favorable solution.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you for your report, Nicholas. You mentioned that there was discussion of, as far as erosion control, armoring, riprap, or possible retaining wall. I was wondering if there were any other options discussed that you're aware of, and specifically has any type of engineered soil for building it back up in some fashion. Is that?
So, yeah, I mean, to reiterate, Supervisor Horsley has not asked for a specific type of remedy, meaning he has not specifically asked for riprap, he has not specifically asked for a retaining wall. He's asked that something is done. So he has not called a specific solution out. So he has not called anything like that out. Furthermore, Caltrans has not said we will only be part of a project that has riprap and not you know, we wouldn't go along with a retaining wall. They haven't specified any of that. So no parties have specified a specific type of solution. So I want to make sure that that's clear, because I don't, you know, no party has said that whole, you know, that horrible R word, riprap. I mean, I know that no one has said we want riprap. So I just want that to be clear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Two questions. Let's see. First one is, okay, have I got this straight? So I want to know what the next action is, and that's going to be that the work group in Caltrans is going to come up with alternatives, or
The
am I
next,
getting lost?
yeah, the next step will be this working group, 2 people from Caltrans, 2 people from the county, are gonna have a conference call. And they will, at the end, the goal is to be able to walk out of that conference call and say, okay, we have agreed that this type of project will meet all the needs, will meet all the concerns that are existing, and the county is comfortable putting their money into that project, and Caltrans is comfortable putting their money into that project if they find it, but at the very least, they're very comfortable permitting that project.
Okay,
So
so
it's
what point,
conceptual.
so what point would public input or be taken?
I think more than likely what would happen is we would have to come up with the type of project that everyone would be comfortable with, and then we would have to go out with a scope of work, and from that scope of work, after that scope of work is released and a consultant is hired, it would be some point after that you know, we would talk with the community.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for public comment, and I have a speaker slip from Leonard. Thank you.
Connie, if you want to fill out another speaker slip and then bring that up, then you can come up and ask a question at that point. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Leonard Warren, El Granada. I'm going to start out by saying that nothing that I say following this is to be interpreted as I want to see any risk to the highway being impacted. But, you know, let's get real. Protection is just code for armoring, and armoring means either riprap or retaining wall. And those are basically unacceptable. The Coastal Commission rightly is going to have a really hard time approving it. So what else do you look at? Well, first, and the other thing I forgot is armoring means no beach. You put armoring, whether it's riprap, whether it's a retaining wall, no matter what you do, if it's armoring, the beach will disappear within a small number of years. Some one-digit number of years, the beach will be gone completely. It's already gone at high tide. There's no beach whatsoever at high tide. If you look a few hundred feet up where Caltrans armored it about 14 years ago, their armoring failed 3 years ago. It just failed. It's almost gone. Armoring doesn't last. Armoring, in fact, increases the erosion rate on each side of the armoring. So then you have to go armor further and further and further, and where we're headed if this isn't stopped is California will have an 1,100-mile long armored coastline. And you can do a Google search and you will see plenty of reports that say what I just said. I didn't make this up. So any permit for armoring needs to require, as an unconditional requirement, beach nourishment to keep the beach there. No matter how much sand has to be brought in, if it's armored, you have to require continuous beach nourishment to make sure that beach stays there. And another condition in the permit, and I'll say all these things to the Coastal Commission, so you prepare for it now. Another condition needs to be that the armoring is completely removed if the Army Corps of Engineers ever gets off of their you-know-what and fixes the breakwater problem, which they know is their fault. They're just dawdling on the report. Sooner or later, they're going to have to issue the report, and we all know what the report is going to say. The report is going to say the erosion there is because of the breakwater they built in 1959. If Ken LaJoy, who used to work for the USGS at Menlo Park, gave a talk at the El Granada School, I think in 1999. I have a video of it. I would like to make a copy of the DVD if Supervisor Horsley will watch it. It's got a run time of about 2.5 hours. You can see me with a black beard. It's really important that he understand the issues. You know, I really appreciate that he's taking affirmative action on this, but he needs to understand the issues better than he seemingly does. Because this is just not the best approach. And in Barbara Vanderwerf's book, Granada, a Synonym for Paradise, she goes through historical data and shows that the historic erosion rate at Murata Surf, which is only a few hundred yards down, if that, after the breakwater was built, is 3.5 feet a year. And what that means is that in some years it's almost nothing, but you will see storms where all of a sudden we will lose 10 or 15 feet in 2 back-to-back storms. And that's also happened further up, about 100 feet south of where you're talking about armoring. And actually right at that point, also where Half Moon Bay used to have a parking lot. I go out and try and take photos every year after the storm season, and you can see the retreat. Since I've been doing that, we've lost 20 feet of the bluff top there. So any solution's temporary unless you fix the breakwater. So Supervisor Horsley's letter was CC'd to Jackie Spear. What he needs to be asking for is federal emergency action to order the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary to allow an appropriate fix, which may mean modifying the breakwater, which they currently won't allow. It may be removing part of the breakwater, which they currently won't allow. More likely, it's to put in baffles at 90-degree offset to the breakwater, and that will probably fix the problem. But it needs federal action, and that's what Supervisor Horsley should be asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing, Dan's comment about engineered soil, it occurred to me that if you go put a ton of sand out there, that will probably solve the problem also. You just have to keep replenishing the sand, but that'll stop the bluff erosion at the highway.
I know I usually try not to, but if I could just make one quick, 1 minute comment, I promise I'll
As
stop.
long as Leonard knows he can't retort.
Let her know you can't retort.
Yes.
All right. So Leonard, you get a pen and paper out and mark this down. You're right. You're right. You're right in the fact that this is a larger issue than just that site. And Supervisor Horsley understands that. However, if I wanted to sit here and talk about it all, none of us are going home tonight, because this conversation will go on for hours. The long-term, so this is a short-term solution at this location. It is not meant to be a long-term solution. Supervisor Horsley fully understands that a long-term solution will involve things like what's going to happen with the highway, what's going to happen with the breakwaters, what happens with sand from the harbor, what happens with everything in that area, because it's not just that location, it's just not that 180 feet or 130 feet of unprotected highway embankment, it's everything around that. And Supervisor Horsley does understand that. However, this concern for this winter is strictly that one section. And so that's what we're trying to address. We don't have jurisdiction on this 130-foot section. The county would be so far in over its head to look at the entire solution, especially when the Army Corps of Engineers is supposed to be releasing a study 6 months ago. 2 years ago. So Supervisor Horsley does understand that, but we need to look at what do we do on the short-term basis, and then how do we resolve it on the long-term basis. And so, once again, you are right, but and Supervisor Horsley does understand all of that.
Thank you. I said no. Neil.
You can tell me after.
Thank you for allowing me to speak at the Midcoast Council. I agree with just about everything Leonard said, which I hate to admit, but there are a few things that I disagree with, and that is, yes, long-term erosion is bad. We need to fix erosion. Sand may fix the erosion. The breakwater may fix the erosion. And we have to get moving on those two things. But right now, this winter, we have to do something now. We are going to be talking about the long-term solutions here for another decade. We've been talking about them at the Midcoast Council. Well, I've been watching for at least a decade. And I've been meeting with Coastal Commission staff. Parks Department has been meeting with Coastal Commission staff, meeting with Caltrans. And basically, on the staff level, this issue has stalled. And that's why I'm so thankful that Supervisor Horsley wrote this letter, because he's taking it to another level. He's taking it to the political level. We've never had as high an official in San Mateo County write a letter like this to Caltrans, and we got a response from a very high level of Caltrans. So this is taking it to a different level, applying political pressure to a solution. And you are also a political body. And I would hope that you would take this moment, or at least think about taking this moment, to also apply a little political pressure. I would thank Don Horsley for sending this letter, and tell Don Horsley that Surfers Beach is incredibly valuable to the coast side. It's a recreational opportunity that's used by people way beyond San Mateo County. It's used a lot. Thousands of people come there, and you almost can't walk down there anymore. This is the first year that I've ever seen in 25 years of living here that the sand didn't come back in the summertime at Surfers Beach. It usually does come back, and then it goes away in the winter and then comes back again. It didn't really come back this year. So yeah, something is different, something is up, we need to do something. And the other thing, since you're a political body, I would suggest asking Supervisor Horsley to allow a Midcoast Council member to be present at any kind of future meetings, political or work groups, to represent the public. You know, that it may not happen, but asking for that would show the supervisor how interested you are and how much you care and that you would like to participate. And I think that'd be a valuable thing to offer. And I just want to say, you know, in terms of whether it's going to be riprap or armoring with concrete or whatever, I think we're probably talking about two solutions. I think we're talking about something just to prevent losing the roadway this winter or next winter quickly before we can come up with a long solution. And there's going to be some kind of permanent solution that I hope will include replenishing that beach. And that would be one more thing that I think might be worth adding to your letter to Supervisor Horsley. And that would be to also send a letter, along with Caltrans, to the Harbor District asking for beach replenishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Dave Olson?
Well, this should be relatively brief because Neil and Len have said most of what I want to say. But yeah, my big concern is that we not apply an emergency solution, which is damaging to the environment and the beach and the coastline. And applying political pressure to get something done is great. Applying political pressure to get the political pressure off, a solution that just gets the pressure off, would be the wrong answer. And yes, I do think some involvement, somebody on the coast, whether it's from the MCC or the Harbor District or somebody, would be a really good thing.
Thank you, Dave. Connie?
I wouldn't be much of a queen if I didn't put my 2 cents in. You know, it really seems that what I hear here is everybody with engineering tactics on how to fix it. You know, maybe a transporter room on one side and people to the other, and then you don't even have to worry about it. However, you know, the likelihood of that happening is as likely as any of these agencies coming to some agreement and saying, oh, hell yeah, we're going to fix your road. I mean, you know, Santa Claus isn't real. And neither is Caltrans. So what you are missing here is Plan B. if you're airborne and you're in the military and you jump out of a plane and your main chute doesn't open, you have Plan B. You have a second chute. If you're in the Navy, like I was, and your ship goes down, you jump overboard, you go to Plan B, you start swimming like hell. Now, those Plan Bs are either planned for and you know how to swim, or you know where your second chute is, or you're screwed. And I'd say that's where you're all headed. You haven't got a Plan B. You have $200,000. And instead of going and saying, please, what you should be doing with that $200,000 is saying, reality, that road's going to fail. That road is going to fail before anybody does anything about it. What is Plan B? How do you reroute traffic? Where do they go? What are the impacts of that on the community? It's going to run right here through Alhambra, Avenue Alhambra. This is going to be the main thoroughfare. So how do you address those things? So, and how do you address the problem that actually got us here in the first place? The road's too close to the ocean. So, you know, to build the road and keep putting it in the same place is hope against hell. It ain't gonna happen. So, you know, I would suggest come up with a Plan B, looking at taking that $200,000 and instead of saying, you know, let's hire some consultant, it's like, let's get the consultant right now. Let's bring somebody out here and have that consultant say, here's how we're going to set this up. And so the day that that thing does wash out, you're ready to pull your second chute.
Thank you, Penny. Sabrina?
Hi, Sabrina Brennan. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. This is a complicated situation we have here with the erosion and the highway located so close to the erosion and losing the beach and all the problems we're also familiar with. I've been thinking a little bit about Plan B lately, and it was interesting, the last speaker kind of mentioned some things that reminded me to speak about Plan B tonight. We have multiple things we could try potentially to slow down the problem or to work around the problem, but we don't have any idea how long any of those things will work. There's a lot up in the air. We have had an extensive planning process in the past where some solutions were presented for moving the highway back. And I think that those concepts were a bit horrifying for the community, just the whole notion of having to move the highway back. So it seemed like even though we had consultants come in and work with the community, and we had, you know, working groups, and we had big community meetings, and we looked at various renderings of options to move the highway back, it didn't seem like anybody was ready to go there yet, just because nobody wants to move the highway, because it means that then we lose something else, which is, you know, open space or land that's important to somebody. I think at this point, because it is evident when you look at what used to be the beach, that there is less there than there used to be. I mean, the water, the ocean's coming right up to the bluff now. There is no beach a lot of the time. And I've noticed it looks really different, just like in the last few months. And I think it's freaking some people out because it is remarkably different than even the beginning of last winter. So, you know, it seems like that is a reason to step it up. And we've got so many different overlapping jurisdictions, which we've all talked about for years, and everybody's sick of hearing about it. And we've got so many different potential things that we could do there. We clearly need to deal with the trail. For years, I've been saying, let's focus on the parallel trail and prioritizing the parallel trail in that section so that at least we have a trail on the east side of Highway 1. I know that isn't a solution for the west side of Highway 1, but if we had a trail on the east side of Highway 1, then at least if we lost more of the west side of Highway 1 in an emergency, we'd still have a trail on the east side, hopefully. And that would help get people down to the intersections where they have a crosswalk. And part of the problem, obviously, in that area is that we have people crossing illegally in front of Surfers Beach, and it's dangerous, and there's accidents, and people get hurt. So, there are just so many different things we need to talk about. Obviously, the Harbor District's an important factor, and obviously that's something that I think about a lot, and what we could do to potentially use some of the dredge material, which needs to move anyway within the harbor, and try moving it over to Surfers Beach to see what would happen. I mean, certainly that seems like a good idea that's been talked about for a long time. I just feel like at this point we need to get everybody back together again, like when we had that big meeting where we had all the agencies, all the overlapping jurisdictions show up, including Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, the Gulf of the Farallones, the Coastal Commission, Caltrans, you name it, the county, of course.
Sabrina, could you about wrap it up?
So I just think at this point, it would be great if we could have another one of those big meetings and try to get everybody on board with the reality of where we're at with the situation today, and start coming up with some concrete plans and figuring out some ways to work together as a community and as public agencies. So I don't know what the MCC could do to make that happen, but perhaps a letter might be helpful to suggest something along those lines. And, as a community member, if there's a way that I can contribute, I will certainly be available to put energy into it. And I believe that the Coastside Beach Coalition would also be willing to put energy into organizing something like that. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike Wallace?
Yeah, I'm Mike Wallace, and I've been working with the Surfrider Foundation. I'm also the high school surf team coach. So this area is obviously a really important domain for us. The junior high team has some 30 to 35 kids who would normally surf in this area, and the high school has about 17. So that's well over 50 kids just from our community that are in this area, not to mention all the outside folks who come to recreate in that area. And there's essentially no beach left. I mean, I think we recognize that now. I mean, you walk in that area and it's just clay. So I do really appreciate your efforts, Nicholas. I think it was a little bit alarming in that article that it seemed as if we were approaching this as we're going to rock it, we're going to put riprap in there, and we're going to do an emergency situation, because most of us know that that's not a permanent solution. It's going to increase the erosion rate down the cliffs. I mean, it's rare that you can see any beach all the way down to Miramar now, and that used to be the case where you'd see sand blowing down there. So my main concern is I really want to see the agencies work together. And you described a kind of horrifying scenario there where they're not really doing that. And maybe we should nominate you to be the czar of this issue. And but we need somebody who's going to take that leadership. And I do appreciate Supervisor Horsley taking the issue this seriously. There is also an Army Corps meeting, I believe, coming up November 8th. I plan to attend. We've been working with them for years to get this study out to the public. And we don't know what they're going to propose at this stage, which is the renourishment, which was our motivation, was obviously to bring the sand out of the harbor where it's stuck. But at any rate, I basically here because I just want to emphasize the urgency of getting parking in the area more clearly designated, some safe crosswalks. We've had kids that have nearly been hit on numerous occasions. Some sort of signage in there that shows that people are crossing and using this area, and then hopefully restoring the area to be the prime recreation spot that it used to be. But anyway, my major concerns are just the safety of the kids in the community, and it's been very discouraging that this has gone on this long without even cosmetic solutions in the area. So, anyway, I do commend you for your efforts, and I hope we can move forward and make some progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Sure.
Hi, Karen Wilson from Montera. I really appreciate how proactive Mr. Horsley and everyone's being, but the mere thought of having another road washout after we just got the tunnel is horrifying to Montera and Moss Beach. Having lived through that twice, horrifying. We would have no way to get kids to school, work. It would be beyond devastating, and every agency in the state of California has to step forward, and this is emotional. That tunnel the slide going out, a tunnel, we can't do that again. It would put businesses, it would completely shut down businesses, and I'm just reinforcing the very, very serious nature of this for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Is there anyone else from the community that would like to speak? If not, we'll bring it back to the council. Does anybody want to put a motion on the table just to direct the conversation, or do you just want to discuss without structure here?
Well, just to clarify on that, so if we're interested in writing a letter, the most we can do is indicate we should go in that direction so that we might have one at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to put forward the consideration we do it, but if we do it, we'll have to form some form of a committee to do it, so we have a letter then?
A letter stating in what direction do you want to go with the letter?
Well, I think each council member should probably have a chance to speak to it here, which is our only real chance to talk as a council to that.
I'm asking you.
I think, just for myself individually, when I asked you earlier about asking Caltrans about their emergency plans, it's my feeling from the experience that the council had working with Caltrans on different options for crossings at the south portal, that what struck me in that discussion with them is that they knew all of the alternatives. They knew the pros and the cons, they knew the property rights issue, and they knew the geological issues. So it's my feeling that Caltrans knows exactly what 2 or 3 alternatives they would put in place if, as Penny referred to it, Plan B occurred. My guess is that the most likely one would be to make a cut across to Obispo, which would not involve using Alhambra, but then somehow getting back to Highway 1. But the point isn't the particulars I might think about. I really believe that Caltrans can help the community if they really do feel that the highway is in imminent danger this winter, just to let us know what the options are, whether it be 1 or 2. And we can certainly comment on those, because once the emergency occurs, nobody wants to hear us talk for a day or two about which of the options might be
Yeah.
appropriate. And as I said, I certainly believe that they know those, and they have engineers in detail who understand it. So I think they could help the community on that point to share that.
Could you sum that up?
I think one element of our letter should be to ask Caltrans to share what actions they would take if the road was rendered unusable in its current position.
So you want that as part of the letter?
I
No.
would support, sharing that with the county, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
I wonder if it's possible to come up with some simple wording that we might approve tonight. And I actually have some wording submitted by Neil Merrilees that we might consider, if you would like me to read it.
It's very handy, please do.
Well, this would be a resolution, but we could have something even shorter, but this is what Neil had submitted. The Midcoast Community Council recognizes that Surface Beach is a significant destination for recreation in San Mateo County, and Highway 1 at Surface Beach is an important transportation corridor on the San Mateo County coast. Therefore, the Midcoast Community Council, 1, supports Don Horsley's letter requesting action on the part of Caltrans as an emergency may be 1 storm away. 2, requests that a member of the MCC be invited to future multi-jurisdictional meetings regarding possible solutions to represent the public and present proposed solutions back to the community. This would this is sort of like what my first question would just help us get a sense of what they're doing better to be more involved. So, does that strike a chord with anybody?
Well, as I said, what I mentioned is a particular, I'd like to see that represented.
Say it one more time for me, I got half of it down.
I didn't work on the wordsmithing, this is why, I mean,
Just the thought.
The thought was that the county asked Caltrans to share what their proposed alternatives would be if Highway 1 at Surfers Beach was rendered unusable.
Plan 2.
Plan 2 or 2B, 2C.
Okay.
And the reason for doing that is, I mean, there are only a limited number of options, and I think it affords us a chance to comment on which options seem to be best.
Okay.
Since sand replenishment's been discussed a number of times, I'd like to take the opportunity, I'm sure there's people in the room that could give a little bit more detail of that. I mean, I know that when I've surfed, sometimes I've walked all the way out very far. I mean, where is the sand going? Is it all right out there, 25 yards off the shore? It just needs to be moved up. The whole concept of sand replenishment, I'd like to learn more about, you know, what the experts have discussed as the best option to do that. But I just thought of it tonight, you know, maybe where does the sand go? Maybe it's all right there. We just can't see it.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Come back.
No, I've already figured out. So I agree with the 2 points in the letter that was just read, and I also agree with what Lynn was saying, in that I like the third option in there, to ask Caltrans to tell us what feasible solutions do they currently have on file in the event of a catastrophic loss of Highway 1. I think that's the important part. I think the MCC should have a rep on there, so the community is involved, because it's going to be the community that's going to take the brunt of this. And obviously, yeah, we need to support the letter and try to get this glacial pace moving. So anything we can do in that regard will be fine.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to speak?
Well, just not having looked at the.
Hold on, Bob's
Oh,
got
I'm sorry.
Bob a chance.
I agree with everything that was said prior, but I was thinking, Nicholas, you don't think Caltrans' reluctance to take any type of action at Surfers Beach is because of future plans from the Highway 1 mobility study, do you? They're not, they don't affect one another, I would.
Meaning, let me just make sure I understand this right. The question is Caltrans reluctant to take emergency action or even short-term action because they have the intention of potentially following one of the ideas out of the highway plan, which is to move the highway?
Correct.
Do I understand that right?
Correct.
I could not tell you. I don't know.
I thought you said Caltrans was part of the request to the Coastal Commission as to whether they would consider an emergency permit. I thought the county and Caltrans were working.
Say that one more time?
I thought, I understood you to say that the county and
Yeah.
Caltrans had a committee that together agreed to ask the Coastal Commission about an emergency permit.
No.
So it was only the county that asked?
The county asked Caltrans to go for the emergency permit. Caltrans said they would not. The Coastal Commission said they would not, even if Caltrans did. What
Okay.
Caltrans did commit to doing is working on the short-term project that the county received funding from Costco Busan. They agreed to work with the county to move forward on that, which would not be on an emergency basis.
Can you clarify whether Caltrans did not want to ask for that permit because they disagreed with the county and did not think there was imminent danger in the coming year? Or they just didn't want to get involved to that level?
I thought they said they didn't have the money.
No. Caltrans does not deem it. Caltrans, what they state out of their letter is that Caltrans continues to identify funding, wrong paragraph, Caltrans is currently managing the site through ongoing maintenance activities and inspections by our geotech staff. In an emergency, they will follow their emergency procedures. They do not specify what those procedures are, and that they will continue to monitor and evaluate the situation. So they do not specifically say that they don't, that they do not.
Right.
Yeah, based on my understanding of it, they don't see it as an imminent threat to this winter.
I agree.
That would be my understanding. That's my own personal interpretation of the letter, and that is not a statement that Caltrans has explicitly come out and
I hear
said.
you. That
So,
sounds like a fair
and so that would also be your same response then to why the Coastal Commission doesn't see it as an imminent threat? That you don't really know why, other than, if Caltrans doesn't see it that way, they don't see it that way.
Right, you know, if.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No.
something along those
If
lines.
the entity that owns the property that is,
Okay.
in danger doesn't view it as being in danger, then Coastal Commission's gonna say, well, if they don't think it's an
Yeah,
issue, then we're not gonna take it.
we don't need to,
That's,
we don't
once
need to
again-
step into it.
You know what,
Right,
I
that's
wanna
once
give-
again my interpretation, and Caltrans, or Coastal Commission has never explicitly made that
I
statement.
want to give Neil an opportunity. It looks like he has a,
I just want to clarify something really quick.
you know, you have to be where we can hear you. Get
Oh,
the-
sorry.
And that, you were saying that the Coastal Commission staff doesn't think it warrants an emergency permit. The Coastal Commission staff is not the decision maker, it's the Coastal Commission that gets to make the decision on that. And so I would be shocked if the Coastal Commission, which is a more political body, said that we couldn't fix the road, and we had to let the road fall off.
But what he was just saying is, if Caltrans, who owns the road, says it's not an imminent danger.
Right.
Then now you have two agencies stepping each other.
I know.
That dance doesn't happen, right?
I know.
So-
But it could be that the Coastal Commission would be for this, we don't know, it's the Coastal Commission staff, and that's one of the problems, in that the staff have been going nowhere, and that's why, in a way, this needs to go to a different level at this point, and it's going to dawn, it's going kind of out of the staff level.
Right, and that's why we should support that, but maybe we should also be sending a letter to the Coastal Commission asking them
Exactly.
how they weigh in on this and what exactly is going on, because obviously our community sees it as an imminent threat, and we've been trapped before before the tunnel was in. Now we're just gonna be trapped on the other side. But the serious part is at least with the tunnel, you can still get your kids to school. I don't think most parents here wanna be stuck with their kids 24 hours a day until they fix it. I don't mean that as a threat to anybody, but having been there, we know what that could be like. So, yeah, I mean, that's even worse. Give them all little orange cones to play
I have
with.
one more point to add.
What?
I have one more point to add.
Len has another point, Ted?
So, well, I brought up, we'll call it the Plan B, which was at least to know what Caltrans' Plan B would be from their end, which their tools are basically to, in some way, reroute the road. I've heard people say tonight, and I'm not an expert in terms of the replenishment, but if you were to lift concerns and begin to take sand from point A to point B and just drop it in there, that would also have the effect of a near-term protection of the beach. But there are any number of government agencies, et cetera, preventing doing it, but another request would be to confirm that that option as a near-term option is also, can be made workable.
What option's a near-term option?
Immediate replenishment of the beach.
Oh,
Can you put that in a number 4 bullet? Can you put that in words that fits in with this letter as a number 4? Want me to read the first 3?
oh, you've got them and I'm writing like crazy?
So this is a letter to the county, right?
Right.
I'd like them to make a determination as to whether immediate replenishment of sand in the beach at Surfers Beach can have the effect of protecting against potential problems this winter.
And the county's supposed to determine that? How?
Well, they can go to their experts, and this is a letter to the county, I think.
All right, say it one more time. Determine?
Go ahead.
The county takes steps to determine whether immediate replenishment of the sand at Surfers Beach can provide near-term protection.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
See, we have a couple of things in this letter as I look at this. So we have thank yous, we want the MCC to attend, and then we get into actual solutions for the problem. And I don't think that it'll be an effective letter if we sort of
We haven't asked for solutions yet. Let me just refresh your memory.
Okay.
The Midcoast Community Council recognizes that Surface Beach is a significant destination for recreation in San Mateo County and Highway 1. Surface Beach is an important transportation corridor on the San Mateo County coast. Therefore, the Midcoast Community Council, 1, supports Don Horsley's letter requesting action on part of Caltrans as an emergency, maybe one storm away. 2, requests that a member of the MCC be invited to future multi-agency meetings regarding possible solutions to represent the public and bring proposed solutions back to the community. 3, requests the county ask Caltrans to describe their options for rerouting traffic if the highway fails.
And then sand replenishment was
Well,
mentioned.
we were just saying we didn't think that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to make sure I knew what was in it.
I mean,
You could ask, Ms. Ward?
I'm sorry, it won't be on the,
I'm sorry, you could throw it in on number 4, if you ask the Board of Supervisors to send a letter requesting the Harbor District immediately start transporting sand, or...
Well, they would still run into problems with the different sanctuaries and such. They just can't take sand from one area.
Yeah, I guess there's no place, there's no one person to send the letter to at this
you
point.
know what the answer's going to be
Yeah.
from the Harbor District.
No, we know.
Write a letter to explore all sand replenishment options.
Bill?
To who, though?
I'm just thinking that.
County to explore.
I'm just thinking that if we ask to know what solutions that Caltrans already knows about, what kind of solutions could they bring to bear should the highway fail, I'm sure they would discuss everything from armoring to sand or whatever. At least we'd have a beginning list, and then we could continue from there. I don't want to make this, no pun intended, boiling the ocean here, but it's getting long in the tooth.
Yeah, I agree.
So, the main thing to me would be, support the letters, tell Caltrans to get off their ass and get.
Yeah, I don't think Caltrans is in the business of beach nourishment, and I don't know how to,
Probably not,
understand
but-
beach nourishment is on everybody's mind,
Right.
and we know how the harbor, whatever,
Right.
we know what they're gonna say, the Harbor District. And we know everybody knows we got a regional sediment management plan getting underway, we got the Army Corps study getting underway, and somehow I don't really think it needs to be said here, unless it's just it's something general like, keep beach nourishment in mind, or I don't know, because to tell anybody to do something specific, they're already working on it, it's totally obvious. And if we could hopefully wrap this up, we'd have something we could actually decide on tonight.
I'll make a motion.
We can't decide on this tonight, can we?
Why not?
Yeah,
We didn't
why
say
not?
we were going to write a letter, or did we?
This is the letter.
Yes, this is the
No,
letter.
but was it on the agenda? That's what he's asking.
No?
We have here that we
We
can
can
take
take
emergency
action.
action. Not emergency, we can take action. It says right here.
Okay.
I wrote it. I know that we can.
So, I didn't get any objection for the first 3 items, the first 3 numbered items. The question is here, do we need a 4th item about beach nourishment, or can we just go with the first 3? We can always send another letter.
I say let's go with the first 3. My feeling would be Sabrina brought up an excellent idea about bringing specific agencies together, and that's something we can look into, in my opinion, for something as specific as nourishment. But I don't think it goes into this letter.
No.
Right, we can talk about that. That's certainly something, it's a planning process, sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah. So, could we have a?
Well, the reason I haven't figured out how to fit it, because I don't completely understand how it should fit, but if Nicholas instead, or Don Horsley said, I know for a certainty that a winter storm may wash away Highway 1, so some action will have to be taken. My understanding would be the options at that point would be, fine, we're going to have to do some form of armoring, fine, we're going to reroute the highway. And my question is, if there's a third option called, fine, we'll put more sand on the beach, and any of those might be helpful, then I would want our agencies to be looking at that with the same sense of urgency. So that's why I brought it up. Otherwise, we're saying, well, we'll live with either armoring or emergency armoring, or you'll rerouting or whatever. But I really can't craft it into a better letter than that, and that's why I'm
I don't think we should be saying what the solution should be. I think we're just supporting the supervisor's effort to bring this up to a more urgent level. And we're asking, number two, we're asking to be more closely involved so that we can just, even as observers, just to understand it better. And so the community is better informed. And then the third one about what is the route? What is the detour route that we're facing?
Okay.
And just keep it
I
simple.
understand, I mean, I disagree with that point, but I'm happy to move ahead and decide one way or the other. I don't want to get stuck up here.
That's why we love you.
So-
All right, can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the letter and send it as Lisa just read it.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes, and we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is coastal access and views via Montera streets. Lisa's going to give us a presentation of MCC research on the legal basis for public access to the coastal bluff on 5th Street into other undeveloped public rights-of-way. What we want to accomplish tonight is an increased public awareness and understanding of this issue, because we want to request that County Council provide a reconciliation of this information with what the MCC has been told since December 2012 on this matter. So Lisa. Are you going to stay sitting here?
Yep.
I don't think I'm in the way of us.
Oh, that's better, Lynn, thank you.
Really?
Let's go there.
This is a view from 5th Street in Montera.
Do we all want legs to teach to Lou?
I don't think you can.
Oh, okay.
Both those?
No, it's all right.
One of
I
those.
think it's all right.
Yeah, great. That's all. Thank
This
you.
is actually, well, okay, the 7th Street fence is something that the council's been working on for years, but it was a year ago that we first had a presentation broadening that out to basically the street ends, the coastal street ends in Montera from 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And tonight, I want to focus on 5th Street. And 5th Street is not a developed street. It's a right-of-way that has never been made into a street. And there are many other like that. And so this is representative. I'm going to focus on this one. But it's important, goes beyond the street itself. We had initial presentation on these issues a year ago when Supervisor Horsley was here, and he said he would send county staff to follow up with us, which happened last December. We had Assistant County Manager, Deputy County Manager Peggy Jensen, and County Counsel John Niblin, and they came to speak to us again in March, I think it was, and then we wrote a letter to the Board of Supervisors, and then I was supposed to follow up with Supervisor Horsley, and I also met with Supervisor Groom in August. Prior to my meeting in August, over the past year, there's been a tremendous learning curve that the council had to go through because we didn't know about these issues. And I think another title for this presentation could be What County Council Didn't Tell Us, which we have found out. And so I had accumulated this research, and I had sent it in an email to Dawn and County Council prior to our meeting, saying that I hoped it would facilitate our meeting. And unfortunately, County Council did not look at the material, and the meeting was not productive. So this basically is an attempt to send that material along, hoping to get a reply from County Council, and in the process, help inform the community of the things that we have learned. Let's see, I gotta do this here. So, 4th and 5th Street, as I explained, are undeveloped streets, but these public rights-of-way are important for non-motorized coastal access, and this is what the protection that we've been looking for. So the parcel map on the right, you can see relative scale there. You can see all the green and blue is part of state parkland. Basically, Montera State Beach extends up the rocky shore, practically uninterrupted all the way to the lighthouse. In other words, the property owners along the coast of Montero do not own down to the high tide line. They have a surveyed property line where their property ends, and then you can see 4th and 5th Street, these rights-of-way are 60 feet wide. And 5th Street in particular, basically, it's an easy walk. I mean, as far as the terrain goes. It's not steep. I keep wanting to say next slide, but I have to do it myself. So I found on Google Street View, June 2011 is the lower right, and that's what it looked like before they built the walls and stuff, and that's 5th Street. And so since that time, they've put in the walls. You can see that they're on both sides, and I have not measured the width of the opening, but that is significantly less than 60 feet wide now. And the next picture, you can kind of see down the driveway, which is 5th Street. You see the low rock wall then curves around across 5th Street, and beyond that low rock wall is shrubs and lawn and stuff. So they've put all this landscaping and this hardscape right in the right-of-way. And with the private property signs, and they have no encroachment permit for it, they just did it. In our December meeting, County Council said he didn't know whether the county had ever accepted 5th Street, and so we did the research. You go to the Department of Public Works, and they have these big maps, and you can pay money and get them, and then you can go to the county clerk, and they'll look up the board resolution, and 5th Street was dedicated to public use by the subdivider and accepted by the county by board resolution in 1907, and only a resolution of the Board of Supervisors can abandon the street. You can see this term vacate here. So that's because the state highways and whatever code uses that term for abandoning a right-of-way. They call it vacating it, and the noun is vacation, and it's got nothing to do with a holiday, but vacation of a street is abandonment of the street. So, now this is a more detailed, this is a 1969 survey of the Ocean Shore Railroad property in the vicinity of 5th Street. And the reason I focus in on this detail is because the neighboring property owner, well, let me first go over what's here. This shows the detail of 5th Street just west of Highway 1. And you can see Pacific Avenue, that was abandoned in 1978 by the Board of Supervisors, except for where it intersects with 5th Street. So 5th Street is still there. And then the other arrow points a little higher than that. That's the railroad property, and the title to that property has been transferred to the property owner, but the coinciding 5th Street right-of-way has not been vacated. And I point this out because it's that railroad property, that piece right by the highway, which the property owner claims, since they own title to the land, that the public cannot cross. Okay, the county has a policy on vacation of streets. This was approved in 2000, and it had the legal foundation for it is the owner of a subdivided lot typically holds fee title to the center of the abutting street but has no right to possess or occupy that area. And this is the key point here. 5th Street has not been vacated. It doesn't matter who owns, whether the subdivider still owns the street, or whether the property owners owned in the middle of the street, or whether they own the whole portion across the street that was the railroad property. It doesn't matter who owns the land. It's still subject to the right-of-way. The public right-of-way. All right. Oh, I could pause here and ask if are you all with me here? Okay. Yes. All right. So this is just more detail, more, this is piling it on. Okay, 1st Street, more research I did. In 1977, the Planning Commission considered a use permit for a beach restaurant at Montero Beach, which required using Fifth Street for a parking lot. The staff erroneously reported the county had never accepted the dedication of First Street and thus had no rights. But as I explained before, First Street was indeed accepted by the Board of Supervisors in 1907. Nevertheless, in the minutes of this County Planning Commission meeting, the then district attorney, which was also combined in county council, they were combined in the same office in those years, who was Mr. McCracken, stated he works on the presumption that the public has the right of access which cannot be taken away. Peter Mountain Road, which gave access to McNee Ranch, perhaps it still does. Okay, so in 1992, so I find this letter in the files, the MCC asked County Council if the public has a right of access to Peter Mountain Road. And the letter County Council wrote back says, our conclusion is that they do. This road is still a county-owned right-of-way, never having been abandoned. No action taken by the property owner can ever extinguish the public status of the roadway. If any obstructions have been placed in the right-of-way, the county could compel removal of these obstructions. And so note that the public right of access is unaffected by its development status or lack of acceptance into the county-maintained road system, because we spent much time here with County Council and discussing about how, well, you don't have access to Fifth Street because it's not a developed street. That's, here, this County Council said it didn't make any difference with Peter Mountain Road. So, 8th and 9th Street, these are also undeveloped streets, and they will never be streets, but they do have access to views, and 8th Street, in the case of 8th Street, access down to the granitic beach. So in 2012, the MCC requested that coastal access steps be cut into the slope of the landslide restoration project planned next to 8th Street, and the county answered. The existing vertical public access from Highway 1 to the granitic terrace on Montero State Beach and to the top of the coastal bluff exist within 100 feet of the project area and the adjacent 8th and 9th Street corridors. In other words, not to worry, you got access at 8th and 9th. So how do we reconcile this assurance with the recent County Council statements that because 5th Street is not in the county-maintained road system, it is private and there is no public access? If the county will not protect public coastal access from private encroachment on 5th Street, then any undeveloped public street providing coastal access is in danger of being lost to public use on the whim of the neighboring property owners. And then 13th Street's the last one. Okay, in 1985, a portion of 13th Street west of Highway, the whole portion of 13th west of Highway 1 was vacated or abandoned, except for a permanent trail easement from the highway to the coastal bluff. Vacating the street allowed the area to be used for house setback requirements only, not for development. The only development allowed within a vacated street is driveway, walkway, or similar access way. This is also in the county policy on vacation of streets. No one has requested that the county vacate or abandon 5th Street, which would be a public process decided by the Board of Supervisors. The adjacent property owner has simply occupied the 60-foot wide right-of-way and shut out the public without so much as a walking trail to the coastal bluff. So there's an online petition, which probably many of you signed, and more information at those links. We're up to 365 signatures now. And so I guess if you have any questions, as Laura said in the introduction to this agenda item, my goal would be just to send the presentation along to County Council and whoever else that we sent our letter to last March, and ask for a reconciliation of how does this jive with what you've been telling us?
All right, do any of the council members have questions for Lisa? Go right ahead, Bill.
Just a quick one, and before you send it to the county, if you could back up 2 or 3 slides, there was a little bit of confusion when I was looking at it. I'll tell you when to stop. Just, no. Okay, right there, I think it.
Peter Mountain Road?
At the bottom there, you say, "This segment has never been formally accepted into the county road system." I'm assuming you're quoting the county council that was out here at that time? Not the county council letter?
County Council letter to MCC in November '92. That's a
okay.
quote, that's a quote from 1992. This whole slide is about that letter.
Okay, because that's almost the same thing he said when he was here a few months ago. Nesman, or whatever his name is.
Well, he
Niblin,
said the
Niblin.
fact that, and it's true, so Fifth Street has not been accepted
Yeah.
into the county-maintained road system, but the right-of-way has been
No,
accepted.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, when I saw
Yeah.
that, I was thinking it was Niblin again, and I just thought.
No, this is from 92.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
all right.
I'm just surprised that they have that same consistent speak 10 years apart. Who would have thought?
I have a question on the,
Dan.
I think it's the second to last slide, about the setback. The road was abandoned except for the setback, and
All right,
does that, it was abandoned, so then the setback goes to the center of the road,
no,
or how
there's
does that work?
two issues going on here. The main point here is that, okay, even though they abandoned 13th Street, they left a trail easement for people to walk to the bluff, which we're not allowed to do on Fifth. And even though it hasn't been abandoned, it's already closed, just unilaterally by the property owner. The comment in the middle there about vacating the street, allow the area to be used for house setbacks, that's, I guess, sort of an aside. I guess what it relates to is that Fifth Street, the way we saw the picture and the way they have put these walls in it at the entrance, and then they have the low curved wall around across the street, even if the street had been vacated, they're not allowed to do that. The one that was vacated, when 13th Street was vacated, was so, because they wanted to build a house and they wanted to they wanted the house more towards the street. And so they
Yeah.
could use a setback there.
Right.
They could go to the center of the street for their setback. They
Yeah.
couldn't put the house in the vacated street.
Essentially, they gained
Yeah.
property.
You're limited, even if you have, the street is vacated, you're limited to driveway, walkway, or similar access way.
Any other questions?
Well, so you've covered all of the streets there in this. When the council was here before, county council, they had said that at 7th Street, they were waiting till the coastal commission finished processing something before they would take action, right?
That's what John Niblin said.
Right, and has that occurred yet?
No.
So
The
that's
coastal
still there.
commission has not heard
Okay.
that item.
But in particular, on Fifth Street, and can you refresh my mind on what they said, how that specifically was left?
With John Niblin,
Right.
that they were gonna wait on that coastal commission.
Fifth Street, I'm asking.
Oh,
about.
Fifth Street. He said that the public has no access. He said that because Fifth Street is not in the county-maintained road system, it is private, and there is no public access. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah,
Pretty
but-
much he
So
said.
what is the gist of that? Is therefore he considered that a settled matter? His interpretation.
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, my request, my thought in going forward is it would be better to concentrate your attention on Fifth Street and not go to the others, because that's really where the heart of the current concern is. And I'd like to see
This
it
is
focused
totally
on-
focused on Fifth Street, and the other streets that I brought up are examples underscoring how, what we're saying, these are how these other streets have been treated, and how do you explain the discrepancy? Basically, I am focused on Fifth Street. That's what I'm trying to do, yes.
Yes.
Perhaps that will be more clear in the cover email.
Well, to me, just everything that deals with Fifth Street would carry the point specifically, and the more you go to consider other pieces of it.
These are all about unimproved streets.
I understand that. You asked for my thoughts.
He's talking about
relative to Foley.
focus.
Yeah. I'd rather see you just focus on Fifth Street. That's my input.
Well, the others, I'm not asking anything to be done about the other streets. The issue is, these are all paper streets, and Fifth Street is important because what happens with Fifth Street means that could happen to any of these streets.
I understand, you just asked my input on what I'd like
Oh.
to send forward.
The way,
You mean, you think we should take those slides out?
Yeah,
With those
I'd rather
quotes?
see you go directly at Fifth Street as a problem and try to.
but the other slides are supportive evidence to a point on Fifth Street. So it just straightens the argument.
I guess, I mean, I was following it till you've been, from the presentation standpoint, as you went down 7th, 8th, and 9th, I just felt it, I mean, you were great, San Pedro Road, all the other pieces, and as you brought these others up, especially one where they said we're gonna wait for that, it just seemed to me to.
But she's showing the
Oh,
inconsistency
I
in what
thought
they.
from First, I
Yeah.
thought that the further examples were First Street, Peter Mountain Road,
Yep.
8th and 9th, and 13th. I thought those were all the same, those were,
Yeah.
but you're saying they
No,
should
then-
all
then
come
you kept
out?
going, then,
Well, that's really the last slide, the next one is the
Where-
petition.
yeah. No,
Well,
I-
Bill has a different viewpoint.
Well, it was this one here, when you went into this one, which is, we're waiting for
timed
them,
out.
that's where.
I'm listening.
Oh, you mean it's the picture of the
I
7th
don't
Street
wanna have three
fence that disturbs you?
conversations.
Well, I can
the
take
whole
that off.
slide.
Talking to
I mean,
myself.
just-
Oh, just the last slide?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you wanted me to take off the 8th Street and the 13th Street.
No, it's-
I can take the last slide off, that's fine.
Oh, I like that 350 supporters updated, put the 365.
Well, how about if I
there.
just,
But
okay,
it's not about what we're talking
I got this.
Let him know this is.
I
important.
will swap out the picture and put Fifth Street there. How about that?
Okay.
All right?
Any other council questions? I'll move this to public comment, and I have a speaker slip, surprisingly, from Leonard.
Oh, we have another one. We have one from.
I think before each meeting, I'm just going to pre-print a speaker slip for each agenda item.
Maybe we should give you a gold card.
That's perfect.
I don't understand why anything from the presentation should be taken out. I think that was an excellent presentation by Lisa. And the key, could you go back to the slide that says 8th and 9th Street at the top? As I've said before, including when Nibelin was here, and I looked at him and I said that he's always wrong. Still going to stand by that. He is always wrong. There's two key points here. One is the county policy is not even legal, saying that the property owners own fee title to the center. That's actually not true. Go read the subdivision information from 1906 to 1908 when it was subdivided. The property owners were given lot lines that specifically, intentionally do not include the streets. The streets were dedicated rights of way turned over to the county when the county accepted them. And so if the county abandons it, it's still public property. It does not revert to anyone. They can't do that. Not here. In some places where I used to live in a medium-sized city in Southern California, and there the property owners did in fact own the center line of the street. But there was a quitclaim easement to the city for it. But that's not the way it was done on the coast side. The other thing that Nibelin doesn't understand is there's two separate issues that he conflates constantly. Every time this comes up, he conflates these two issues, and they are separate issues. One is the land that's accepted by the county as a public street right-of-way. That has no connection whatsoever to whether it's developed as a public street. Once the county accepts it as dedicated right-of-way, it is county-owned land. The developer is handing the fee title for that to the county, and the county accepted it. Yes, Lisa. Now, the county road system issue is completely separate, and that is when a developer has to build a road to get to a house they built, they have to improve the road. If they improve it to the level of the county road standard, and it's a fairly high level, if it's improved to that level, they can then ask the county to take ownership of the road that they built. And the county, if they verify that it's built to county road standards and agrees to accept ownership, then it's entered into the county road system. Not at all related to whether or not the land is owned by the county. Now, the county won't accept a road that's not on publicly owned land. But Just saying it's not in the county road system
Are you
does not
asking for
mean the
any-
public doesn't own it. So you need to hammer that point. That is the critical point here that Niblin is just so wrong on.
So
You
do
need to
feel
hammer
it's
that point.
insufficient in doing that?
Hmm?
Do you feel the presentation is insufficient in doing that?
I think that specific point needs to be emphasized a bit more, but, overall, I think it's a really good presentation. Just, put a little more oomph into that one
It needs a
point.
little Leonard spin.
Thank you,
Should I-
Leonard.
Should I answer it or just let it go?
Just let it go.
Hi, my name is Karen Wilson, resident of Montera and the author of the petition. 365 signatures. You can share it with your friends. I'd like to get more. Please sign up. You can do it on your phones. Little red button, push sign, add on. I'm disappointed I haven't heard back from any of the supervisors, given I now have 365 signatures regarding this. Lisa, I think it's an outstanding presentation. I don't think it should change, and I don't believe we should pollute the topic anymore. The more we pollute these topics at the county, the more we don't get a response to the one thing that we need to have happen. Yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, John Maltby, I'm going to guess he might be a little bit over Niblin, made a statement. There was an appeal on 12th and East Street in Montera yesterday, and the applicant wants to put the driveway access to the house on an unimproved portion of East Street. It's exactly the same type of street as 5th, exactly the same. And I specifically asked the question. Supervisor Tissier reiterated the question, asking, could this property owner on 12th Street put up a fence or a no trespassing sign on East Street to block people from walking their dogs and traveling and using this paper street? Could that happen? He specifically said, absolutely not. It wouldn't happen. If it did happen, the signs would be removed and the fence would be removed. It was very clear, and it was very to the point, and I think this whole topic needs to come to a quick closure. If that quote could be found by time to get this letter off, I would like to have that added if at all possible, and not a lot of grief for Lisa. I think she's done an outstanding job. I would really like to see Montera preserved. We don't need our roads washing away. Everyone here should be able to see the views. It's amazing just to look down Seacliff now and catch a glimpse of the ocean. It's stunning. And the fence on 5th Street is falling down now and is going to injure someone. There's a ton of broken furniture with screws sticking out of it that anyone could sit on, seriously be injured, sue the county for the injuries, and you and I are all going to pay the tax dollars because the county has refused to respond to this for 2 years. So I would like to see this move forward as efficiently as we can, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Dave Olson?
Well, I definitely want to see this move forward. I do think that, we should emphasize the public nature of Fifth Street as strongly as you can in your email or your cover letter. I have walked out on that stretch of Fifth Street. It's very close to my house. The view is absolutely stunning. The only other way to get out there is a rather unsafe trail up the bluff at the south end of Montera State Beach. It is state beach property. It is covered with ice plant, which we all know is not a good thing. So yes, I absolutely encourage this going forward and pressuring the county council to do what the county should be doing to guarantee access to everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, I'm going to close public comment. And does anybody want to put a motion on the table for direction of discussion?
I could make the motion.
All right, please do.
I move that we request the county council provide a reconciliation of the information in this presentation with what the MCC has been told by county staff since December 2012 about public access to the coastal bluff on 5th Street.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you will put a 5th Street closure rather than a 7th Street closure?
It says 5th Street. And we'll take out the picture of
Okay, I'm going to move on to agenda item, I guess this will be C. We have moved the consent agenda item appointing me to do the coastside design review interviews in November. And Bill?
Yeah, I wanted to just bring up the fact that since Chris Johnson is probably going to win his election, and he is on the CDRC, that maybe we could ask for two, and you could take Chris, as he would have the perspective of actually being on the coastside design review, and would have other interesting questions to be asking possible.
I talked with Don about bringing two before, because I wanted to involve someone else, and he was really adamant about that.
He being,
Oh, Don, Supervisor Horsley.
yeah, I'd push it. If it was me, if it was me, I would push him again. I actually think it's best to have two people in those kind of situations, because.
Well, I hear what you're saying,
we
and that's
can-
what I asked for. But the fact that I'm even there is a big step from what we had. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'll say timing is frequently.
Well, there's other issues going on here too, and the lack of movement of getting a full complement of people on the Coastside Design Review Committee is leading to lots of people having to waste tons of time trying to get their permit process through.
Okay, I tell you what, I've spent the last 2 weeks, and I haven't gotten it in writing to you, and I sort of thought you would take this off, and then I'll just explain to you what I've been working on. Let's see, number one was just getting an updated roster of exactly who is on design review and how long their terms are. Number two is getting the actual advertisement together and for the architect, and then the professional organizations that we can recruit from. That should have been done some time ago. So recruitment's a big one, and we actually did, so now we have someone to interview for Montera alternate, Moss Beach alternate, architect interview, and so the only thing left, do we have anything left? Possibly Ron Madsen. Nicholas was supposed to bring me the information, but he didn't. His term may be up like in 2 months, in which case then we're gonna have to take a look at that, and we'd probably move anyhow. So anyhow, lots of energy and time spent here, but we're getting responses.
Okay.
And I did talk with, I wanted an architect actually to join me in the interview, but what she did do is she gave me a list of questions that she would ask. So that will be helpful, at least to direct the interview process. So I agree with what you're saying, and in time.
Well, something was brought up at the, I thought they were going to be here to speak tonight during public comment, but they aren't, so I don't want to go into it. Maybe they don't want to bring it up, but I know one incident where.
Montera?
You probably.
She's been in touch with me personally,
Okay.
so, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Laura's getting to know all the players quite
No,
well.
I know. Well, you know, it's kind of sad, because, you know, I mean, from what I was told, it sounds like, you know, something we've heard many times in front of the council, that it's okay to build a smaller house, not a larger house, and then you begin to wonder what's really afoot here.
Yes.
And I don't have that detail in public, so I'm not going to go any further, but.
Rest assured,
You're
I'm
on.
on the case.
Well, thanks for the summary. Keep us informed. So right now, do we have a choice? Or like, if we can find 3 live bodies with heads, I believe you stipulated, do we just get them on there? Are they going to show up?
No, they'll be interviewed. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be appointed.
So I don't want to go too far further, but so the issue I would have with that then is we've been running at what, half staff, I think for a year and a half or longer.
Mostly architect down.
Yeah. And that's causing great delays in the permitting process for people who are trying to build. And if the county isn't willing to like put the people in there, then the job can't be done right. And, you know.
Oh, do I know? And
I wish Nicholas was here, because I'd like to remind him that we are now back to district elections, and these are district issues.
We've been discussing this in minute detail.
Okay.
So, like I
I
said,
look forward to your next report.
and the thing is, I couldn't figure out how to put
If
all
I'm not,
this.
if I'm still not on the council, let me know, I'll come in special for that one.
Oh, all right, absolutely. I couldn't figure out how to put it all in an email to explain it, so this.
Oh, no,
was-
no, actually, if you just did it at a public meeting, do it
Okay.
as a, you know, just a committee report or something.
Okay.
Hey, I hate to type it all in email.
Laura,
Yes.
how often does the design review committee meet regularly? How frequently?
That
Is it two-
depends.
Just once a month, one time a month.
But that's only if they have something on their agenda, let's potentially cancel. So it depends on the
Had a couple
time.
of months
So-
where there were no projects to be reviewed, but that's been rare.
So with this, are you accepting of item
Yeah,
C on the
oh,
consent
yeah,
agenda?
and I'm
Okay.
fine. I mean, I would like to see two, and going forward, we'll have to just keep
Yes, and
pressuring
I'm
the
in
county.
agreement.
But
So
I
do
don't
we-
want to slow down this process, if you can get some people on there.
Yes.
Do we need to make a motion and vote?
Do we need a motion?
We
do.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, then we approve the letter.
Second?
It's not a letter.
Not a
it's
letter,
we're
it's
appointing
me.
Lo-
I'm sorry, I approve you.
Here it is, appoint Laura Stein as MCC representative to attend November 12 candidate interviews conducted by Supervisor Horsley and Pine to fill the vacancies on COSIDE Design Review Committee.
I make that motion then.
All those in
I should say-
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there was one more thing I wanted to say to you. Okay, it's gone. All right, we will now move on to council activity. This is correspondence received, oh, here's the one thing I wanted to say, and that was Chris Johnson, our current COSIDE Design Review representative for El Granada, has suggested that we have a more extensive agenda item in which we begin to really educate the community on what this committee does, what it involves, in greater detail.
Wow, that would be great.
So that would be really great. So
His
anyhow-
first task.
Yeah, exactly.
Discuss what we
He's got work
do.
already.
He seems qualified to take
I
it
mean,
on, too.
Jim Egemeyer is on my list of the come and talk. He
Oh, I have-
owns- He owns this committee, that's who should lay it out, because I've never heard from Jim what it is exactly I'm supposed to be doing on this.
Before you call him in, let me give you some stuff.
Oh, excuse me, I'm waiting to hear back from Jim as a matter of fact, because I have called to make an appointment to come and discuss with him COSIDE design review issues. So I will report back.
Yeah.
Well, and I believe Chris will join me. Okay, we're now moving along to,
Council activity.
thank you very much. Meetings attended, correspondence received. Well, I just attended a meeting, so I can start out here. And I attended a meeting, I'm losing track, on shuttles. Best practices and implementation. The call for projects is coming up in December, actually. And the way that the shuttles work is they're single purpose, and they can fill in regular bus service gaps. For example, they cannot actually overlap with any type of transportation. So the way that this would work is we have to identify a specific need for a shuttle.
Whose shuttles?
It's grant funds that we would apply for a shuttle in our area.
Who would apply for it?
Can I just,
I believe the county would be applying. I'm just doing the research, and we would make the recommendation to the county.
can I put it into perspective? So Pacifica has a shuttle that goes through Pacifica down to the north portal of the tunnel on weekends to allow people to get access from basically different areas around Lindemar all the way to the south portal without having to wait for a regular bus. And that's funded through a Measure A grant, I assume. So-
Combination.
Huh?
Combination, Transportation Authority pays a portion, CK.
And so you have a special purpose function, you can apply for that.
Yes.
And that would be, yeah, maybe we could do something from the harbor to the south portal.
Well, what I would need, so this is the dates that we're talking about. So this November 2013 is a call for projects providing technical assistance. So what they're going to do is the engineers, et cetera, from Samtrans, and there's a certain group that will provide technical assistance on what your idea is. So I think what they're trying to do is help you first even to determine if your idea is viable and would be funded. So what we need to provide is ideas for what it is we want to do. keep in mind, and I don't have all the figures, but we have to get funding then from another source. They match funds that we get from someplace else. So Len had suggested that we talk with, apparently has some contacts in Pacifica who have done this, done this shuttle program. And then it's the winter of 2014 is all they have is the actual call for projects.
So we have a year.
Yes. So, basically, we have to determine rather quickly what it is, if there's something that we want to do. And I'm more than happy if there's somebody who's interested in carrying this mission out. Leonard, do you want to come up to the microphone? Make it brief?
How about a shuttle running from lower 35 where the park and ride lot is down to Half Moon Bay?
I like it. That's another thing I thought of.
And then, of course, a shuttle from Half Moon Bay to the harbor.
Is to work with Half Moon Bay and see if there isn't something that we could work out between the two of us, because that would make the funding a bit easier, depending if some of it comes from businesses or something like that. So.
I should go pay for the shuttle as far as the harbor.
What do we propose as our next step?
You need Spear Carriers to do something.
Pardon me?
You need somebody who wants to spend time on it.
Is there anyone in this room, as we speak, that would like to help forward this project, or feel strongly about and passionate about this project? There's no one speaking.
Actually, so you know people that worked on the Pacifica shuttle?
Yeah, how to get to them.
Yeah. Because what would be interesting would be to see how much, that would help scope the work needed. And then that would certainly size up what kind of proposals would be interested in doing it. And then, of course, the real big piece is who's going to help pay for it.
Right.
But I would, if you could get that information, I would certainly go over it with you to figure out, what's the scope.
Some amount of working and writing would be required, which.
Well, for all grants, that's true.
I know, so, which, no one is, as Laura said, it goes to the county, but I'm just not in a position to sign up. I can connect people, but.
I don't see why we have to do any writing or anything else. I think that we provide the idea.
Yes, well, maybe if.
We're not the
Nicholas
people that
said-
applies for the grant.
Well, you could ask Nicholas if we do research, can the county provide grant writers when Nicholas was working on his highway project? So if the county can provide a grant writer to work with us on that, then that would be.
Well, I know Steve got back to me when I first raised Cain about the last one that was missed.
Right.
So maybe I'm assuming things. I had the impression he would be interested, but, okay, so what you're saying is I don't need to find out. but I will find
MCC
out.
can't apply for a grant.
Right.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
The MCC cannot
No,
apply.
I
for a
know,
grant.
I went through this before, but the MCC both has to push green facts, and then they need to be connected to some grant writer who would work on it.
Okay, so you're just asking, we're just to find out from Nicholas if we have somebody who would write up the grant.
Right.
Okay, that I can do. And then you'll just find out info from Pacifica and share it with Bill?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
I think I saw Dave Olson raising his hand out there.
Oh, Dave, could you please come and share?
We love fresh blood. I mean,
Don't say it. I was going to suggest that if you put it on the MCC front page and get it in the Half Moon Bay Review, that there are undoubtedly people on the coast who are interested in shuttles and might have the time and effort to put into it, because it really does take a strong advocate. It takes a lot of time.
What exactly would I put?
The information you just reported, basically.
Oh, okay.
the grant proposal team to look at.
Okay, thank you. I may be calling for details.
I'm certainly happy to try and get it various places on.
Okay, very good. Any more committee reports, meetings attended, correspondence received?
So Lisa and I attended, what hopefully will be the second to last Devil Slide Task Force meeting. And I actually forgot my sheet of paper. Let me think for a second. This is for the park. It looks like they're trying to get some of the work done before the 1st of February when the birds go into
mating season. Yeah, do you have the
I
notes?
got notes,
Yeah,
I got my notes.
Thanks.
And then you can fill in. I'll go first, then you fill in.
Okay, that sounds good.
They reviewed the interpretive signs, which are posted on the county parks website. There's 10 of them. And you may submit comments until the end of October, so that's the end of next week. It's still time to tweak them. They approved the plans for the trail improvements, and it's out to bid now. The Board of Supervisors will award the bid on November 5th, and construction would begin several weeks or up to a month after that. They need to finish the construction along the south end of the trail where the birds nest before February 1st, so they'll be wanting to get that done first. They have this trail ambassador program they'll be getting underway in December with training the ambassadors. That's all I have.
Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty good. The signs on the website have actually been read one more time. The ones they showed in the meeting were updated, so there's have been some slight tweaking to it, but still send in your comments from what's there. Like, I guess I was.
Correct, how to find them on the website?
Just go to County Parks website and look for something about Devil's Slide Trail and click that, and then scroll down, you'll see the interpretive sign links.
And Chris Hunter's gonna send us Sam's link, because a lot of people didn't
Sam's,
see it.
I think his link is there on that page to comment on. I think that's
Okay.
Sam's email, pretty sure.
Can we put a link to that on our webpage?
Yes.
Sure.
A link to the, for the next week or so?
It's probably there, but it's not current, because, you know, they've had these signs up for a while, but I could, yeah, I mean, this is the tail end of it. They're finally, they want to finish this by the end of next week and get them off to,
I mean, most,
you know.
yeah, most of them, I think they already received quite a few comments from. There's gonna be a
Yeah.
slight change to the one that talks about the evolution of getting the Measure T tunnel thing passed. It was slightly, a little out of kilter, but we have our best people working on it.
There wasn't enough play about the grassroots effort. We're gonna
Right,
fix
they-
that. We're gonna get the Think Tunnel
Yeah. I was
logo
gonna say,
on there.
It was kind of tunnel vision, and we had to expand the horizon.
Oh.
I had to get that in there.
Do you have anything to say about why there's 10 signs?
Because it's a long trail. No, they actually, it's not too bad. I mean, these people have done other stuff. So obviously, there's one of it with a map on both ends, so that's two of them. There's one that talks about the history along the coast, the ancient history, and the different settlements that came in, you know, the Indians and the Spanish, and then the Europeans and so on. There was another one on the history along there with the gun emplacements and the war. There was a couple of different ones on the environment in the water, as well as the plants and things like that. And,
Look them up. They're
and the
cool.
railroad, there's one on the
Check 'em
railroad,
out.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Full
So-
color.
So, I mean, there's, you know, for people who will be visiting from out of town, even people who live here, I mean, there's a lot of history involved. The two, what was their names? Something illustrators or whatever, wildlife illustrators, wildflower illustrators, I don't remember what the name was, but they did some really good research. It seems like they have a lot of interesting facts there.
All right, I'll move
Sorry.
right along.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you, that's quite all right.
I have something.
Go ahead.
So Big Wave has a revised application. It's known as the North Parcel Alternative, and it's called that because they've moved all the buildings to the north parcel. And it's been submitted to the county, but the county considers it still very incomplete. Their latest submittal was October 9th, but it's not considered complete, so we won't be getting it. I mean, it's not official submitted yet. Until then, there's a lot missing. So the engineer, Scott Holmes, has been meeting with Lenny Roberts of Committee for Green Foothills over the past year to work towards a revised project that would address the issues that caused the Coastal Commission to deny the project. And Scott Holmes met with the group of Coastal Commission appellants. Those were the ones that, along with Committee for Green Foothills, appealed the project to the Coastal Commission. He met with us on October 10th to introduce the revised project and answer questions, and it was a useful meeting. And so I suggested he do the same at the MCC. And he's out of the country now, but he said he could do our first meeting in November. This would be, and I stress this, would be informational. just to learn what the project revisions are, and stick to that. Short presentation, questions on what the project revisions are. And it is still pretty bare bones. Like, you know, when I asked about certain details, here's the plan, here's the landscape plan. When I asked about it, he said, oh, that's not the landscape plan. So, I mean, you know, but anyhow, that's an opportunity for November 13th. We could always cancel, but anyway, he said he was available. That's all right.
Mention one thing that the council should weigh in on.
When we're through, you can.
On this specific
Leonard,
topic.
I really want to move on, okay? It's not public comment right now. All right,
There's
we're now
also-
moving on to, what?
There's also a Mid-Peninsula Region Open Space meeting in Hampton Bay this week.
Oh, that's right.
Basically going through different projects and uses of the different areas that they control and trying to get public feedback. It was kind of limited as to what you can say about that, but there's going to be, I think, 4 other meetings that's up on their website. And they have most of the information that was handed out in that meeting or discussed in that meeting on their website. So if people...
But those other meetings will look at other parts of MROSD, so.
Look at other parts of what, I'm sorry?
Other parts of MROSD.
Oh.
Those were looking at specifically ones on the coast.
Yeah.
The other ones would look more at the heart of
Yeah,
MROSD.
San
on the
Antonio,
peninsula,
right over
yeah.
there. And-
How did it turn out?
It was
It was
good.
really good, yeah.
It was good.
Maybe about 35 respondents.
Oh, that's great.
And a well-represented community, I might add.
All right.
All factions were there.
Straight.
The facilitator was excellent, very skilled.
Well, yeah.
All right, we're now moving to any committees or continuing business. Okay, then we'll move on to future agendas, and what we're currently showing is Len, on November 13th, will provide us information on the Midcoast California Coastal Trail. And
What about Big Wave?
Big Wave,
Do we
right?
want to do that?
Do we want to do that, you know, because you're sort of in the groove here, how about you?
Well, I have to say, the meeting was useful, and I felt that others might find it useful as I did. I had this opportunity, and there was a small group there, and so that's why I suggested it. And I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but Lenny Roberts also said she thought it would be useful, that that's the role of the MCC. And
Yeah, I would kind of agree, and I also saw that, I know at least one other community member that would probably be very interested in this, that I read his email correctly, so I think it would be good to have it.
Okay.
So that the public knows that it's coming back and
Yeah.
can figure out how it's been scaled back or what happened.
Okay.
When I-
Do you feel that an agenda item with Big Wave in the title could be fit into this room, or should we have a larger?
Well, that's the
meeting?
next discussion. My initial thought was, well, let's just deal with it. But I'm thinking, you know, there's been an article in the paper now, and there'll be interest, and maybe we should get a larger venue. And we haven't done
Yeah.
that very often. We have money in the budget for it. And if we were to do that, I would suggest Cypress Meadows.
Now, do you think his presentation is long enough to warrant that?
Long enough?
Yeah, I got the impression it was, because it was so tentative with, I mean, that there wasn't all the information there.
This is interesting. You're asking me to predict what this meeting will be like.
No, I mean, you thought it was interesting for you, and so it sounds to me
It
like.
was
you think
interesting
it would-
for all of us. Now,
Yeah.
this is a group of people who were quite closely involved in the project and in commenting on it, enough so that they joined in with the appeal, and so they had specific questions for him, and I think I could.
Did he have effective visuals on the modified plan?
He did not have a PowerPoint. We sat around a table. He said he might have a PowerPoint for this. He'd have to make one. Heck, I could.
Well, the question, if he's going to have a PowerPoint, I mean, to me, it's at the community level, most interesting if there's effective visuals. But
I
then
think-
if he's considering doing that, I would make sure that he is reviewed with the people behind him that they want to do this there, because
Well, I would say, my guess is he has, because when we met with him on the 7th, he was leaving the country on the 9th. And since then, the article has come out in the review, and Jeff Peck was quoted in there, and at the end of the article, it said that this would be on the MCC agenda on that date. And now, how did the paper get that information? I didn't tell him that. Scott didn't, he's out of the country, so Scott must have told Jeff Peck's the only way I could figure it, and then, because how else would the review know?
Anyway.
Okay, so it sounds like you think it's a good idea for us to get a larger venue.
Yeah, it's not like the done deal, we better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, what, $150? And, if we had it here and then everybody couldn't fit in, that wouldn't look too good, you know, so what the heck?
All right, do I have a motion?
I
Do
move
we need a
that
motion to
we
put something on the agenda?
No, we don't.
She's trying to get ahead.
No, I was thinking about a motion for
To
the,
adjourn.
the.
Special venue?
Yes,
For the venue.
thank you. I knew there was a reason.
I move that we
Spring for Cypress
reserve,
Meadows?
well,
Yes.
let them know ahead of time, we don't have the date yet, but let them know ahead of time that we will
November
be.
13th.
This is specific, this isn't.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
move to reserve the spot.
Oh, don't we have to specify the amount, not to go over, not to exceed such
They
and
have a
such
set
an amount?
amount, we've been there before, isn't it
I think we
150?
put
That's
that
fine,
in
we
there.
just have to have it
Okay.
in a motion, in the minutes, that we're spending this money.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we allocate $150, should I say 200 in case the price went up? No more than 200
The regular rate.
to, to have the alternative venues so for the November 13th meeting, because we expect a large turnout.
All those in favor? No, do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
I seconded.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with
Motion
that,
to adjourn.
thank you.
Good.
We are adjourned.
Are we gonna have the coastal trail in that meeting too?
Yeah.
Why not?
You put the
Okay,
face.
if we can get that, let's start publicizing. Did you go?
Now, what about these chairs? Do I have to put all these chairs
This one
back in
coming
the
up.
pump station?
This coming up, right?
Sure.
I don't know.